That totally threw me off. I didn't have my headphones plugged in, so
Oh, all good. How's it going?
good. How are you, Kaleigh?
Good. Good, good. Busy day, but good.
Okay. What defines a busy day?
um, so I do, in addition to obviously playing and training,
Mhm.
um, I work for Under Armour in marketing.
Oh, okay.
So I do mainly grassroots marketing in Boston. But grassroots marketing means like 70 different things. And I'm one person in this market.
Oh,
So I'm running everything from our marketing in retail stores to wholesale and events, and now with COVID, virtual events, to developing new programs for our team, like our department team. It's just a lot of shit, a lot of stuff.
so yeah, you're quite the busy bee then.
Yeah, I do like 70,000 different things, but here we are doing an interview too now while we're at it. Just
There.
going with it.
Well, hopefully I didn't press you with any time or anything like that.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. We're good.
So, like, when you explain about all the stuff for Armour, so like, what is it like? So, do you just market for them? Like, do you just do like? I know that when people like when they get sponsored by certain companies, they usually do like pictures or they'll like show off their gear. Like, what is it exactly that you do?
Um, so I kind of have this, like, I feel like a double life with the company, because as an athlete and as an elite athlete, I get asked to do a lot of stuff. Like last week, I got asked to do a photo shoot for our spring summer 21 line that's obviously launching next year. So it was a photo shoot for those like marketing campaigns, like the big graphics that you see in store. So I not only like fill a role within our marketing team to actually like do marketing for the company, but then I'm asked to also act as an athlete for some things for the company. So it's very, very unique. Because you're like, I'm employed by the company, but then I'm also kind of representing them sometimes as an athlete. So
Hmm.
from a working perspective, I'm doing everything that's like direct to consumer marketing, which means um, anything like from out in the community. So like any events that you would see Under Armour doing out in the community, we're kind of organizing that. So a lot of relationships with like partnerships, different sports teams, different athletes. Um, you even kind of touched on like this little like when athletes are getting free product from us, or product from us to represent our brand in different ways. We have our own little spearheaded program from a grassroots level that I'm actually in the process of building out. Um, so it's like a brand ambassador program, really marketing that's direct to consumer. So anything retail, anything community engagement wise, events. I'm doing a lot of like the back end operations to that
Hmm.
um, for our team. Sorry, that's a lot to throw at you, but I hope that
Well,
helps.
yeah, and I think it's good, and it's good for someone like yourself to do that. I mean, obviously it's a good side hustle, but I think too, like from what I'm getting from you, like it also kind of seems good to have someone from the women's NHL or NWHL. I'll always get that wrong.
It's okay.
NWHL league to have someone represent for the team. I think it does bring a lot of notice to the league as well to have an athlete like yourself to represent Under Armour.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, kind of in the seat that I'm in, where we do a lot of, in essence, it's brand marketing, and a lot of product marketing, more so when I'm kind of have my hat on for Under Armour, and then
Mm.
I am going to practice, and I'm also doing a lot of stuff on the PA level as a representation for Boston, and because of the 50-50 revenue split, the conversations of what our director, like Anya Badalino or Anya Packer now, is having at on a director level.
Mm.
She's in a lot of those conversations representing our Players Association because of the 50-50 revenue split. So I feel like from a brand marketing perspective, it's awesome when you have different players in this league that have these also other jobs that are in a business world, whether it be marketing or from a financial side or just different parts of the business that are also very applicable to our league and our growth, to the women's game. So yeah, it's you're always wearing like multiple hats, but it also helps. A huge portion of our league is the whole business side that, now athletes really have to lean in. And it's kind of just the way leagues are running now. Like you look at a league like the PLL, for men's professional lacrosse, and,
Hmm.
that's spearheaded up by, a player himself and Paul Rabel. And that's a guy that was the first ever professional lacrosse player to be $1 million athlete. Um, and a lot of that has come from just his ability to brand himself. So I think you're starting to see now a lot of the pro leagues have athletes that know how important and vital it is to be able to brand yourself or what brand value means.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people I've had on my podcast, a lot of guests I've had, majority have been fighters. It's just kind of the way it's kind of run its course. But a lot of them kind of talk about that. A lot of them have to do that kind of side gigs, or they have to, whether they're doing stuff for currently Reebok. That's the deal that a lot of these fighters I've had on. That's what they're doing, and they have to always do that kind of stuff because to help pay for your training or help to pay for whatever it does certainly help on the side. Um, now, obviously the men's NHL league, they're sponsored by Adidas, or at least the jerseys are. So what for the women's league? Is it like is Under Armour have their foot in the door for sponsoring, or is it individual sponsoring? How's the teams work?
Technically, right now, there's no league level, at least, yeah, there's no league level deal, from an apparel brand. Well, yesterday they announced branding with K1, so they'll do all like uniforms and jerseys.
Oh,
K1 Sportswear is like a big in the jersey world, especially for hockey. It's a big kind of distributor or wholesaler. So they're doing all of our jerseys. But from an apparel standpoint, no, league wide, there's no deal. So a lot of the stuff is individual through players. So players doing kind of their own thing. And then you want it to be mutually beneficial, right? Like it's tough right now too. I think for where we're at because we don't have a TV deal. So when you don't have a national broadcast deal, obviously Twitch is huge for us, and Twitch just streaming in general. When you see all other pro sports, NWHL, football, even the NBA too, all being streamed on Twitch as well. But like from a national TV broadcast, um, it's you really need that to kind of get everything else. Like for Adidas, what they do for the NHL level, and Nike does for the NFL and things like that. That's when those guys really start to come in, is when you have a national TV deal. So hopefully soon enough. But
yeah, it kind of sucks though that the women's league doesn't have that like TV broadcasting like deal or anything. It sucks because my girlfriend, she's a huge fan of the women's league. But she said it sucks because you barely ever get to see the women play on TV, and she's always been wanting to do that. I mean, as much as she likes watching hockey with me, she has no problem. But like, she definitely would love to see more of the women play on TV, and it just sucks that she can't. The only time she really gets to is when it's like the world, like the Olympics, or the
World
games
Championship.
that they have once or twice a year. So it kind of sucks for her, and I'd love to see more of it because I've really gotten hooked into the women's hockey. I love seeing the skill and the speed, and you don't typically always see that with the men's league. It's all like hitting and fighting and carrying on, and so
Yeah, it's I mean the men's game has also changed drastically, I would say. Um, in the last realistically like five or so years, it's definitely changed. And you're starting to see it now with like the draft last night, with the type of style of players and the size of guys that are getting drafted. It's far different than what it used to be. Like it used to be this like hitting, fighting.
mhm.
You listen to podcasts all the time about guys that grew up in kind of that past era where they were fighters and they knew their role, and that was simply their role, is to go out and fight, and sit in the penalty box for, you know, the amount of time that they were playing in that game. So that was just kind of the nature of it. And now it's different. And I think as the men's game has changed, it's brought attention and light to the women's game, to take notice of the stuff that you're saying, like speed and skill, and it's a different game. And I think you're starting to see the men's game kind of follow, suit with that, and it kind of more aligns. So I feel like as it does kind of align in a sense, you're starting to see, people that never knew really a lot about the women's game that are like, oh, this is exciting. Like, this is good hockey. It's not, oh, it's good for women. It's like, it's good hockey to watch. And so that's kind of, that's how we get more fans. And this is just how the league continues to grow with attention.
Absolutely. And I do want to kind of touch upon that with the league growing. But I kind of want to rewind back here. So you're born in Burnaby. Like you're obviously like the first Canadian player to really get into the women's uh W and the NWHL. I'm sorry, I'm gonna mess it up so many times.
It's all good. It's all good.
In the women's league. So how does that feel to be able to be the first one?
You know what? Like, it's not something that I even really thought about up until, like, quite honestly, recently. I feel like more people have been like, "Oh, you're the first Canadian to, you know, sign a contract or whatever." At the time, it didn't really, I guess, mean anything. But I think now, for where the league is, um, it is, I think, proof to show that, um, the league is attracting international players, and you're starting to see more Canadian players. Or,
Mm,
you know, we have quite a few international players. I mean, we have a couple Canadians on our team, plus, a player from the Czech Republic, a player from Sweden. So, when I was playing for the Riveters, we had a player from South Korea, and it just goes to show that, you know, when you're kind of breaking down those barriers, that this isn't, yeah, it's a primarily based Northeast American league, but, there is opportunities for international players to come and play.
mhm.
There's definitely some restrictions around that right now that, um, you know, is making it difficult to continue to kind of make it a place for more international players to come. But as the league continues to grow and some of those barriers kind of break down, you'll start to see a lot more international players.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's good to see that. I mean, when you said South Korea, I was like, "Whoa," because that's not
Yeah.
a typical place you see hockey players come out of. And it's good. I mean, diversity is good, and you're getting so much different talent from different parts of the world. Um, Now, kind of going back to what I was saying, so like kind of starting at the beginning of your career or your hockey path. So obviously, you started playing hockey when you were a lot younger. How frustrating was it to not have a women's league to play in because it wasn't as offered?
Yeah, well, growing up in British Columbia, women's hockey was much farther behind the rest of the country. When you looked at any, Team Canada teams, like whether it's under 18, U22, senior national team, um, majority of the players that represented those teams were all from Ontario, all from Quebec. You had one or two from maybe Saskatchewan, Alberta, not really from Nova Scotia or even farther east, but for primarily it was really Ontario, Quebec, and there was like no players from BC, no female players representing, on those national teams. And, for me growing up, even more so, because women's hockey was, farther behind. There weren't many leagues for women. The development was very far behind from Ontario. Like, I played boys hockey. Um, I did. I played with boys my age, and at a time there was a rule in BC where you could play both, boys hockey and girls hockey. And I was playing boys hockey, when I was 6 with boys my age. But if I was playing girls hockey, because of the other players, my age, the caliber was not as good, that I was playing with girls that were 15 years old as a 6-year old, 6, 7-year old. And that, you just imagine like a locker room setting, like those things are just not the norm at all. And so it kind of did back and forth, did both. And then there was actually a rule implemented where you had to choose. You couldn't play both boys and girls hockey. You had to kind of make a decision. And my parents asked me, they said, well, what do you want to play? And they kind of also had a little bit of input because they didn't want me in a locker room when girls were 6 years older than me, 7 years older than me. Um, and so I chose to play boys hockey. And so I kind of did that and followed suit with that. Um, and not, I guess, sorry, I'm giving you a really long, rounded answer here, but um, I think at a time like the only thing that existed was seeing Olympians. And it was, you know, far different. I had two older brothers that were playing, and they were competitive hockey players, and they were all had dreams and aspirations of playing in the NHL. And I was like, my aspirations are playing, for Team Canada. It's just different. Like looking back now, I'm like, I wasn't like, oh, I want to play in the NWHL. I want to play women's pro hockey. I wanted to like do that for a living. It was like, I want to play on a national team because I want to play in the Olympics. But like, it's just a total different, mindset. And, it's actually really almost narrow-minded thinking. Looking back at it at a young age, you don't really realize like that's your kind of only path. So, um, it really started to change. Your focus is obviously, I would say, other than the national team, was to go to NCAA, and that was kind of the route. Like all the good top players were going to play on a scholarship in the U.S. And so that was your path. It's like you wanted to go play NCAA hockey, and then you wanted to like make a national team. So it was just a different type of thinking. Like now I look back, and it just at a time that's all that existed. And I guess now that there are multiple pro leagues, team like pro leagues in Europe, and there's a lot more for women that I never had growing up. And um, it's obviously continuing to change and evolve, and it will, until we get to a point where women don't have to work side jobs like I'm doing. But yeah, it just was a much different time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I can remember playing as a kid, and there would be like that one or two girls on the team, and I felt so bad for them. It's just like I'm sure they want to be playing with the other girls, but yeah, hopefully, as leagues grow and everything, the girls won't have to do that as much. Um, but kind of moving forward, I mean, so you go to Boston University. So what was your decision? What was the decision making process? Being able to choose Boston University.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because BU was a newer program at the time when I was kind of looking at schools, and quite honestly, wasn't really on my radar when I was first looking at schools. Like I said before, I had two older brothers that were playing. My oldest brother is 5 years older than me, so he was playing Junior A at the time in the BCHL, and he had an offer from Brown, and so I knew that he was going to be on the East Coast in Providence. And my other brother is in between us. He's 3 years older than me, and he was playing Junior A as well. And it kind of seemed like his interests of schools were on the East Coast as well. And so I kind of wanted to be on the East Coast. Like I went and saw some Midwest schools, Minnesota and Wisconsin, and they seemed too big for me. I'm a city kid. I grew up in, Vancouver, and
Mhm.
I like the city life. Like I couldn't imagine myself on a campus in the middle of nowhere. And I was really fortunate enough to have a, a good amount of choices to really choose from. And BU happened, just I happened to be doing a visit at Harvard, and BU had expressed a lot of interest. Brian DeRocher, head coach of the program, um, flew from, they had been expressing a lot of interest. And I was kind of, yeah, BU sounds cool. You guys are a new program. So it wasn't like, all these other big programs at the time that I was like so blown away by. And he flew from Boston to Seattle, drove from Seattle to Vancouver to meet with me and my family at my house. And I got to really know him And he did that all within 24 hours, flew back to Boston. And I remember after he did that visit at my house, my it was him. My mom wasn't even actually around. It was actually just me and my dad having this talk with him. And after he left, my dad was like, what did you think? And I was like, wow, I should really consider this school. And at that point in time, I obviously did a little bit more homework. I knew BU as an institution was obviously academically a great school. They had a communications program where I knew I had an interest of going into broadcasting, and it just seemed like a lot of these things started to seem like the right fit. I was also only 45 minutes away from where my brother Jesse was going, and just things started to align. And at that point, um, I had done my visit. Like I was saying, I did this back-to-back visit. I had been thought, I was going to see Harvard, and then I was going to see BU. And then after I saw BU, I was like, you know what, like this is a good fit for me. So that's how that had kind of went.
Okay. And what was it that you took at Boston University?
I did broadcast journalism.
Okay. And I guess that's kind of how it got your foot in the door. I know you did like some broadcasting stint a while back. I can
Yeah,
do.
yeah, this year, kind of part-time ish, when we didn't have games, a lot of the Hockey East games were broadcasted on Nesson, so I had the opportunity to do color for those games. So every now and then I did like Hockey East championships and Beanpot. So
Hmm.
it's tough while you're still playing to like do both, but it's obviously a passion of mine. So
That's good. That's good. And yeah, so obviously, you've been on some various teams over the years, but Boston, you just signed an extension for just last year. So, like, how does that feel? Do you think that Boston Pride is your home? What's your thoughts on that?
yeah, Boston's definitely a home. When I was here, you go to school here, like Boston's a small city. So I
Hmm.
was going to school for the 4 years. And when I finished 4 years, I had started my master's degree at Northeastern. And I was still staying in Boston because I was playing for no longer CWHL is not in existence, but I was playing for the Boston Blades in that league at the time, uh, doing my time with the national team and starting my master's. And then I was like, oh yeah, no, I'll do this and see how things go. Um, and Boston, then I kind of like was like, I'm ready to like leave Boston. I've been here for 4 years. I like kind of want to get out of here. So NWHL came about, that whole thing all started. There was an opportunity to I knew a lot of the players that I played with on the Blades were going to be staying in Boston. And so I was kind of just looking for a scenery change. And so I went and tried out the free agent camp in Connecticut. Connecticut became my home for that year. And then after Connecticut, New Jersey had expressed a lot of interest, and that kind of changed my thoughts. I thought I was going to be staying in Connecticut. And then that opportunity came up, and I was like, why not? Kind of go live in some different places and kind of not be so bubbled in New England. So I went and played in New Jersey, and then found myself coming back to Boston. I guess friends, boyfriend, life, everything's here in Boston. So
Well,
it's
there we
just,
go.
it's home.
And yeah, and when you talk about Boston being such a small city, but the fan base is just unreal.
Yeah, the fan base is amazing. I mean, we've developed this fan base for going on year 6, and like absolutely within the past couple years, the fan base in Boston for women's hockey has gained a lot of attention, especially this past season with kind of the success that we had. And People are crazy for sports here, so it doesn't matter what sport it is. Obviously, people love the Pats here, and the Bruins, and I mean every sport. But realistically, every sport. So now people are like Boston Pride fans. Like you literally can walk down the street sometimes, and people like recognize you. Like people actually kind of know about it. I think we still have a long way to go, but dude, we've certainly made strides and have made a mark. in this city for sure.
And like, what's your how do you deal with like the fan base? Like say you're walking down the street, are you like how do you approach fans?
I think what's so special about our league is that you like we're not, like the other day, one of our players happened to be shopping in like one of the malls around here, and they saw Cam Newton, and like
Oh, that's pretty cool.
everyone stops in the mall and is like just staring at him, right? Like he's dealing in a whole different thing. I think just because where we are as a sport and as a team, like we really are invested in, you know, really making that fan to fan or fan engagement and that connection. And I think you really, really see that when you come to a game and we have our autograph lines after. Obviously, with COVID, it's going to be far different. But how it normally was is, we'd have like a long line, but every single person is required to come up and sign autographs. It isn't like five people go up and sign autographs after a game. Every single player on the team has to sign an autograph, and you're literally there until like the last person leaves.
Oh my,
And it's that's like a whole nother job to us, is that really like person to person grassroots level connection that we have, because and I think that's what makes us so unique and so special, especially in our league, is that you don't get that when you go to, no knock on our male counterparts by any means, but you go to a Bruins game, or when I was growing up, I go to a Vancouver game, and five guys come out, they sign for about 20 minutes, and they're gone. And sometimes like you don't even get an opportunity to really like talk to your idols.
mm-hmm.
Where you come to a NWHL game, we're staying there for, it's usually an hour sometimes post game, and you're like, I just played a game 2 hours. It's 10 o'clock at night. Like, I just want to eat dinner, go home, go to bed. If we're playing a back to back game, you're like, I just want to get out of here. Like that's kind of what you're saying when you're tired. But then when you get into the line, you start signing autographs and you're engaging with fans, and they're like, they're like, this is my first time ever going to an NWHL game. This is like the coolest thing ever. And then you see them coming back and back every single home game, and you're like, oh, I've seen you now in the autograph like 5 times. And then you start to develop these relationships with these people, and that's how we grow our fan base. So I think we're definitely in a unique situation, but I think that's what makes us so special, like when we are interacting with those fans.
Yeah, and like I said, going back to Boston, obviously, I think there's a reason why the team's called Boston Pride, right? I mean, obviously the name, but but the whole idea about Boston Pride, I love how great the name fits, because there's so much pride in the city of Boston, like you said, in every single sport. I mean, baseball, hockey, football, like go on and on and on. And yeah, and it's good to see the fan base really be able to increase in the league for sure. Um, Now for yourself, obviously, you got the Defender of the Year award. So how does that feel?
um, yeah, I mean, it's always, I mean, those individual accolades are obviously something to be, humbled by for sure. But with the season cut short, I guess at the end of the day, like, I mean, you start playing like at the beginning of each season, you want to win an Isabel Cup. You're not like, I want to win an individual accolade. Like, that's not it. You're obviously humbled by that. You had a great season, whatever. But and there's some great players that have come through this league that have all been, that have won, like Blake Bolden and Courtney Burke and Gigi Marvin. Like, some of these defensemen that have come through this league are, some of the best players to ever play the game. So, to be kind of a part of that group in a sense in the NWHL is certainly special. But those things don't really matter. What matters is like an Isabel Cup, and I've yet to win an Isabel Cup in this league. So it's
Well,
kind of my main priority, I would say.
well, it does suck how the season was cut short and no one really got the cup, and it sucked
No,
it ended, but like, what can you do?
yeah.
But yeah, so I guess and then you also had like the hardest shot at the All-Star game. I mean, hell, you can like do it all. You can play defense, you can shoot the puck pretty damn hard. I mean, What else can you have?
I was I was actually sick that whole day, so I had yeah, I had like food poisoning. I was throwing up the entire day. Yeah, miserable, absolutely miserable. And then I had to go for skills competition. I almost didn't make it to skills competition. I was so ill. I had not anything I had eaten that day. I'd been like puking out, like water, nothing. I could keep nothing in my system. So,
Oh,
um, yeah, that was a rough day. I don't like to think about it, but
well, certainly, it didn't definitely didn't reflect on your skill. That's for sure.
I don't know about that. But
Like you could have had a harder shot if you weren't so sick, or
I mean, who knows? I don't know. I was just very ill that day. It was bad.
hmm, yeah, for sure. So like, what are your expectations for the next season if they do go ahead with it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I just really hope that we do get to play.
Hmm.
I know it's obviously going to be far different than anything that we would traditionally have. So I'm kind of just more going with the flow, and at this point, just happy that we're already practicing as a team. There's a ton of protocols put in place right now for testing. We get tested weekly for COVID, and there's a whole committee working on different things just to make sure that like player safety is number one right now. So I'm just trying to stay optimistic that we do get to play. What it's going to look like, who knows? How many games, who knows? But if we can just do it in a manner where everyone is staying healthy and we're not having any outbreaks or anything like that, that's really all we can ask for. So yeah, you know what? I really don't know what to expect. I don't think anyone knows what to expect right now. I think we're just expecting that we can get through it and get through it at least from a player safety standpoint, like everyone's safe and healthy. And I think when we start playing games, whatever the setup is, like it's going to get heated and competitive, very similar to watching the NHL. Like once games started, you were just kind of like, wow, this is good hockey. Kind of format bubble is so different. They're talking about a ton of different outcomes or the setup of what we can play. But yeah, I just hope we get to play some hockey. I don't really care how it is. I just hope everyone's safe and we get to play.
Yeah, and I think that's the most challenging thing right now is they're trying to figure out a way how can we give that insurance to know that okay, we start playing X amount of games, and then all it takes is someone to go back home and their significant other gives them the virus, and then they spread it to the teammates. So I wonder how they're going to be able to have their finger on that. I mean, I I don't think it's realistic that um, what they did with the NHL play like the playoffs that the Stanley Cup playoffs that they did this last couple months. I mean, it was perfect the way they did it. I just don't know if that's realistic for the women's league as well.
Oh no, no,
The men's
no,
and women's league for a season, I think it was fine for a couple months. It's a little bit of sacrifice for those guys to stay away from their family, but I wonder if that's really going to be realistic and if they're going to have to find a different approach if they do happen to do a season for the women and men's leagues.
yeah, I mean, our situation is far far different than the NHL. I mean, like you can't even compare the two. You just can't bubble for a long time. If you were to bubble, it would be a very very short stint, and it would put restrictions on a lot of players, people that have full time jobs that can't take time away from paid time off or even get the go ahead from their company to be able to like forego, working for however long. I mean, it's just a total different conversation. So that's why I'm saying, like, who knows what it's going to look like right now. I just do know that there's a ton of those conversations being had. There's committees for COVID. We're getting tested right now. Like, there are protocols put in place to keep us safe. And I think at the end of the day, that's the most important. Everyone's safe, everyone's healthy. You're not having outbreaks. The players are player safety is really number one. So I
So
think you just got to accept the fact that this isn't a traditional season at all, and it's not going to be for however long the pandemic persists. And yeah,
Yeah, it certainly does suck. Sucks for the players. I think some players probably have that thought, like, even if we win the cup this year, it's not going to be authentic, or it's not going to be as realistic. Like, I know there was a lot of that talk going into the Stanley Cup Finals playoffs this season. Like, a lot of people were saying, well, if, for example, Toronto, just because I'm a Toronto fan and I'm a diehard fan, and a lot of people like to rip on me for it. Like, they're saying, "Oh, well, if Toronto wins the cup, I mean, it's just because it just with the COVID and everything." It's like, well, we'll see, and obviously another first round exit for us, but you know, um, yeah. So I think it does suck that way as well. No, just kind of moving forward, obviously. So the Toronto Six join in the league, and with all these Canadian teams joining in, do you think that also helps the league grow and get more recognition?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the expansion teams so far in this league have been very successful. Minnesota, most profitable team in the NWHL, most fans at in attendance on average per game. I mean, that expansion was huge. Toronto is a massive expansion. The attention to hockey. I mean, people are Leafs fans, but maybe they'll be Toronto Six fans because Toronto Six might win some stuff. Not let Toronto people down, but no, I mean it's a great city to be in, realistically, for hockey, especially in Canada. So yeah, that expansion is important for this league. Any expansion is. Because especially when it's an individually owned team, they're the only other team in this league that's individually owned, and that's really kind of the model that the league's really going for, is trying to get people to invest in the league and buy, have individual ownership, private ownership, so that the league doesn't have to take on the front of those operating costs, which is a lot, and that's how the league continues to grow. So, yeah, that expansion is huge, and the hope is to have more of those. But yeah, the Toronto team's got a pretty good setup.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to see how their team shapes up. I know that they did a lot of signing in the last 4 or 5 months, so we'll have to see how they all turn out. And I think when you're mentioning about having a lot of international players, I think if I'm not mistaken, they signed some goalie. I think she's from Germany. Can't think of her name, but if I am correct, yeah, they just signed someone from Germany. So yeah, when you're talking about having all these international players, it's nice to see it having more, not than just having North American players come and play. It's nice to kind of have that diversity for sure. Um, so I guess with that being said, do you have any word on if anything is going to return with COVID, or I mean, obviously we kind of talked about planning if how they're going to be able to how the players play, but any word on coming back to train, or have you heard anything from the organization?
Well, we've been practicing. So we right now are going through our practices with the intention that come January we'll be starting games.
Okay.
That's a communication that we've had. So we practice. We have our practices. We skate as a team 3 times a week. We get tested at the beginning of the week through like our through like it's COVID testing, gets sent off to Yale for Yale to analyze data, sends it back.
Hmm.
So it's a week to week basis on how people are doing in regards to the tests, and then we have like additional ice. So like Tuesdays and Fridays are kind of skills days. If you have a flexible schedule or working from home or whatever, that you can hop on the ice as well with our assistant coach to do skills. So yeah, no, we're like, I mean, technically we're in, I guess, official practice doesn't start for like another week, but we've been in optional skates, which is like technically training camp for us. So um, yeah, we're going, we're going right now. No games, but a lot of practicing.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, because yeah, as I mean, you gotta. I think you just have to kind of take that gamble and take that chance that everything's gonna work out the way it's being cemented into stone right now, and hopefully, yeah, you guys can get to play because I think I mean I know just the hockey just ended, but obviously hockey really being the only sport that I like besides MMA and a couple of the sports. I mean, everything else on TV is not cutting it for me. I want hockey back already. So
Yeah, NBA playoffs really aren't cutting it for me, or NBA finals aren't cutting it for me. So.
well, after the Toronto Raptors got kicked out, I was like, nah, I'm done.
I can only watch so much of the Miami Heat and LA, so we'll see.
Miami Heat's your team then?
No, I'm a Celtics fan, I guess, right now, so I can't really. Yeah, they kind of stunk the bed, so it's okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now I just had some more like fan questions from some people. So I think the first one is like who's probably your favorite team, if not in the women's league?
Detroit Red Wings. I'm a massive Red Wings fan. I would say in the last couple seasons, it's like really hard to be, it's heartbreaking to be a Red Wings fan. But yeah, I've grown up like a massive Red Wings fan since I was like really, really young. And when Datsuk was a rookie in the league, I just like fell in love with the Red Wings even more. Yeah, my dad was like big into like the Russian players, like watching the Russian era. And when I was growing up, my first ever little jersey was a CCCP jersey with number 13 on the back. I still have it to this day. Got Datsuk to sign it when I met him. So I just grew up watching like Igor Larionov was like one of my favorite players growing up, and then just naturally just stuck with that era of the Red Wings and watching guys like Nick Lidstrom and Zetterberg and Dan Cleary, like some of those like old school guys at like Holmstrom. Those were just
Hmm.
great hockey to be watching.
Yeah, did you happen to see the pick that Detroit picked up? I think they were the number 4 pick.
Fourth overall pick.
I just can't remember who the kid was because I think in my mind I want to keep thinking of Zadi or Razi, but I don't think that's who they picked.
No, they didn't. They I forget his name. I was looking at it this morning. I wasn't following along the draft last night.
I just still a pretty good pickup. But it was
Well,
who I thought
yeah.
they were gonna pick though.
Yeah, I mean, the draft's the draft. I mean, it's
You never really know. I mean,
no, you don't.
Steve Eisman
You
was a
don't.
round pick, so yeah, it's hard to say how it's all gonna go. I don't know for myself, and I had a discussion with my girlfriend about how, and she's a Red Wings fan, so
Oh, is she really? That's funny.
she was really upset about how the draft kind of worked out because I think it was pretty set in stone that either Detroit or Ottawa is probably going to get that number 1 pick, and then obviously with the way they did all the playoffs, I think they really screwed Detroit the way they set up the whole draft, and unfortunately it went to New York Rangers, which I'm not really terribly like. I'm not. I wouldn't argue with that either. I mean, they could probably use a first round pick as well, but I mean, you look at a team like Detroit. Pretty much, they were like the last place team, and it's unfortunate that they got screwed the way they did. But hopefully, like having a first round pick will definitely help the team out a little bit, help Larkin out a little bit. I think.
Yeah, they've got a lot of rebuilding to do, but you know, some of their rookie players last year, or some of their call ups from the A, their farm system has always been so good. So, yeah, I mean, the draft. Like, you never know what's going to happen with a lot of these players, how they're going to pan out. So we'll see, but I'm still hopeful. I think there's a Larkin's leading the home pretty solidly. So, I mean, he's such a good hockey player, and some of their pickups from last year, some of the guys coming up from the A are pretty good too. So, it's just tough when you have a lot of Hall of Famers that play for your organization for a really long time. So, or potential Hall of Famers. So, but yeah, I'm a Red Wings fan.
Yeah, at least I don't. You have just as much a shame as me being a Toronto fan. I mean, at least you guys aren't worried about being a first round exit for the last couple of years, so you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, no. I mean, making the playoffs for 24 seasons straight is pretty solid.
Mhm. And I just had one more fan question. It was just balancing hockey, social, family life. How do you manage all that?
Good question. Um, I don't know. Time management. I'm very um I don't know. I'm like pretty type A personality. I write lists for everything to get everything done. Like I have sticky notes literally everywhere on my computer. I think you just got to find like a healthy balance with everything, and that's what I try to do. I think I've always been this like busy bee, someone that likes to do 1,000 things. Like I've never been this person that like can only do one thing and sit still, um, which it may be a good thing or a bad thing. But I think growing up, I played a ton of different sports. Like I was never just playing hockey. I played
Mm.
soccer. I figure skated. I played lacrosse. I played I just did everything. Um, and just trying to find like a healthy balance. I think it's so important to make time for friends and family,
Mm.
um, and kind of not get too absorbed with work and hockey. I think mentally it can be so draining. So I just try to find a balance with everything. I feel like the older I've gotten, the more I like can prioritize better, like what I really need to spend my time on and what I don't need to spend my time on. Um, but I wake up really early in the morning. Um, I drink a lot of coffee.
Coffee's a se-
My essentials. I like to get my workout done first thing in the morning, so I'm up pretty early. I'm leaving my house by like 6:15 to get to the gym to work out with my trainer and my workout, and then I start the work day, and I just try to stay really organized. But um, yeah, if I don't get things done, like if I don't have my checklist to get shit done, like I won't get stuff done. I'm obviously like a normal person. Like I get lazy on days where like I don't want to do things, but I know. Try to do my best to balance everything, but I don't know. No one's perfect, so
oh
do
yeah,
my best.
absolutely. But Kaylee, I just wanted to thank you for coming on the podcast, taking your time out of your day to answer questions and to come on here and thanks for letting me interviewing you. You've been nothing but a great guest, and
Yeah, thanks.
hopefully we'll get to see see you guys play starting January.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Hey, not a problem, Kelly. You take care and you have a great day. Eh?